here in the U.S. and in the West and in Europe also have a big responsibility to make sure that their governments and corporations that are based in the West do not behave badly in Africa. It's our job to make sure oil does not become a curse in Ghana.
We're going to break and then come back. Want to get the full schedule of President Obama in Ghana. He'll be addressing the Ghanaian parliament tomorrow. And also talk about U.S.'s rival for African natural resources. Number 2, France has been replaced by China. We'll talk about Beijing's expansion in Africa. Stay with us.
Yeah, now, 9/11 was the beginning of Satan end time. Baptizing black Americans in a piece of Jerusalem, making sure no black man in America would see his crime. In this time, a black American president a great sign. Too long, them disrespect blacks and Africans combine. When black people, flesh and blood, the Ku Klux Klan love to dine. Watch out Barack Obama and intensify your power turbine. Or else, President Obama, your dark days will never sublime.
Mama, mama, come and we talk about Barack Obama.
The song Barack Obama, Black Rasta. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Kwesi Pratt, speaking to you in the Ghanaian capital of Accra, which is preparing for the first African-American president of the United States and his first trip to Sub-Saharan Africa. What is his schedule for this weekend?
Well, he'll be arriving today in the evening, and he'll be having a short discussion with the President of Ghana, Professor John Atta-Mill. Tomorrow morning, he would have breakfast with the President of Ghana and three former presidents and vice presidents in the castle, Osu. And then from there, he will go to a local clinic with his wife for an inspection. He would then fly by helicopter to the central regional capital, Cape Coast, and meet with the chiefs and people of Cape Coast. And then he would spend some time inspecting the state castle at Cape Coast. He's also scheduled to deliver an important foreign policy speech focused entirely on Africa at the International Conference Center in Accra. So basically, these are the things that he'll be doing in Accra.
Kwesi Pratt, I'd like to ask you another matter. In the G8 summit, one of the things that President Obama was able to get the European leaders to agree on was increasing sharply food or agricultural aid to less developed countries. Do you any sense on your part whether this is going to have any major impact on Ghana or other countries in Africa?
Well, as a matter of fact, what we need in Africa and throughout the developing world is not gifts and is not aid. What we need must be fair trade. I mean, if we get equitable prices for our products and so on, we can make it on our own. In fact, if the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund stop insisting on the withdrawal of subsidies in agriculture and so on, we can then make it. The problem with African agriculture and agriculture generally within the third world is that while the developing countries, through their institutions, insist that we must withdraw subsidies, they keep subsidizing their products. The end result is that our products are priced much higher than products of Europe and North America and so on. So I think what we need to look at are institutional changes to change the global trading system to remove the conditionalities that are imposed by the World Bank and the IMF. And if that is done, we can stand on our own. There is no reason for the poverty we experience in Africa. Africa is one of the most resourceful continents on the continent. In fact, some estimates say that Africa has about 40% of total world resources, and therefore there is no reason why Africa should continue to be poor.
Nii Ekweta, let's put the question of G8 summit to you, particularly the leaders pledging $12 billion for this food security initiative.
I think that this is a case where the cliche, the devil is in the details, is really important, because agricultural trade, as Kwesi hinted, has been really detrimental for Africa. We know that the Western countries subsidize their agriculture and dump the underpriced resources in Africa under the guise of food aid. So whenever we hear food aid, our ears should perk up, we should become more vigilant. So we have to read very carefully what it is that is in this package, what it is that is being promised. The other problem with any promises from the G8 is that there are all kinds of shenanigans. Sometimes they repackage old money and call it new money, but whether it's old or new, they hardly deliver what it is they promise. They just read out fancy announcements for the sake of people like you, the press, to say, oh, we are doing so much to help Africa. When it comes to actually delivering what they promise, that's a problem. The third problem is that there is the question of genetically modified food, and whether multinational corporations are going to control things like seed that African farmers plant. So I think it is important to take that agreement from the G8, to put it under the microscope, to examine it very, very carefully, and to have a lot of strong dialogue about changes that it will need. And finally, I also understand that what they promise is less than what Africa needs. I understand that it is $3 billion short. So there is what we have there, you cannot really pronounce on it until you look at all the details. If the details are not right, it could do more harm than good.
Well, Kwesi Pratt, we want to thank you for joining us from Accra. We'll continue to cover the president's trip next week on Democracy Now! Kwesi Pratt is the editor of the Insight newspaper in Accra, Ghana. And Nii, we'd like to ask you to stay with us as we turn to the issue of China's economic expansion across Africa. China's now Africa's third largest business partner, hot on the heels of France at #2 and the United States, which remains in the top spot. We're joined now via Democracy Now! Video stream by Swiss journalist Serge Michel. He's the West Africa correspondent for the French newspaper Le Monde and the co-author with Michel Buret of the new book, China Safari, on the trail of Beijing's expansion in Africa. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Serge. Can you talk about the significance of China in Africa?
Well, yeah, first, in order to speak about it, I just have to correct you. Now China is #2. It have bypassed France last year, and its business with Africa now is about $100 billion. France is only 70. So now China is #2, just a little bit behind the United States.
So as #2, talk about the significance of China.
Well, the significance is very important because China, unlike France and Britain, doesn't have a former colonial territory in Africa. It has a blueprint to go in every 53 African countries. And in these countries, China is doing almost everything. I mean, they are extracting raw materials, they are building infrastructures, they are investing, they have private pioneers going there, they have settlement plans for Chinese people, and it has really changed the face of the continent. We did this book about it took about 2 years, and we went around 12 African countries. We met different Chinese, entrepreneurs, workers, bankers, and farmers. We discovered that in many aspects, Africa, which is like a place, as a Westerner, you would go there with empathy because of misery, civil wars. Chinese go there with just the aim of making business, making a fortune, and they believe that this move will also benefit Africa.
Serge, I'd like to ask you, whatever infrastructure development occurred during the colonial era, or the neo-colonial era in Africa on the part of European countries was usually geared at assisting their own companies in being able to extract resources, whether it was the railroads they built or electrification or whatever. Are the Chinese doing anything fundamentally different in terms of their development? Are they attempting at all to meet the local needs of the different nations rather than just their own economic needs?
No, they actually do exactly the same. The thing is that the roads, the railways that were built during the post-colonial time were not enough. And nowadays, American companies or French companies cannot anymore build roads in Africa. This is too much rough business. They are into more sophisticated. They are looking for more sophisticated business. And Chinese have this capacity. They can project about 10,000 workers anywhere, anytime in Africa for one of these large infrastructure projects. And of course, it benefits their own companies.